Thank you, Rob. I must say I didn't know this morning when I got up that I have a woman next to me with a crowbar, but it's always for an interesting start. I just want to take a second as I introduce the panel to talk a little bit about the center and link that to why we have three great panelists with us this morning. And what we're trying to do with entrepreneurship and the Entrepreneurship Center, first and foremost, is about connecting. We are in such a great area. We all love to live here. We have such great talent, so many unique stories, but one of the things that we have is a lot of fragmentation amongst us. And so one of the things we're trying to do at the Entrepreneurship Center is connect a lot of that, because a lot of power comes when you start bringing a lot of these stories and a lot of these people together, as you'll see today. And I'll start with Robert Prevost on your right. Robert presented in our first rocket pitch back in April 2009 that the Entrepreneurship Center did. And that's become a really fascinating event. We've done 4, and we've had 20 companies present so far. And we pick companies that have incredible potential to grow and that we see in hopefully a number of years will be the jewels of our region. Since we started that, over $4 million have been invested in those companies that have come into our events to pitch. We've just created the vehicle to bring all that together, and that's created jobs. Brett Martin is the founder and CEO of Castle Branch. He has been the entrepreneur in residence at UNCW for 2009 and part of 2010. The entrepreneurship program was in part created, Dr. Steve Harper, who many of you know, is one of the architects behind the entrepreneurship program. And Brett has done an incredible job working with students and also creating an internship that would make a lot of us very much have white knuckles. And that internship is to make 2,000 cold calls over the period of a semester. Imagine that. Earl Gallagher, founder and CEO of Basho. He has been involved in the center and has become a mentor to a lot of emerging entrepreneurs in this region who are building companies. This stuff is incredible and is going to have a huge impact. And it's really exciting to be up here today, to have them with us to talk about a lot of these things. And I want to go back to talk a little bit about Robert, because when you think about being in Inc.'s 5,000 fastest growing companies and realize that he's number 800 in the country and he's right here in Wilmington, creating jobs, building businesses, now building multiple businesses, wow. If you don't know Robert, get to know him. You're going to hear from him today. Brett Martin started Castle Branch in '97, 4 employees. In 2002, he took those employees from Raleigh and himself and the company and came down to Wilmington, set up shop right across the street in the Cotton Exchange, and created a really interactive, creative work environment. Since then, he's moved to a new headquarters off Military Cutoff Road. There's up to 180 employees, and that space that he left in the Cotton Exchange was such a unique work environment that there's now a new company in there that's growing as well. Think about that. Brett has an incredibly diverse background. If I remember correctly, I think it's his mother-in-law who thinks he worked for the CIA.
I can't say.
And to my left, and to, yes, to my left and to your farthest, or closest right, however that works, is Earl Gallagher, founder and CEO of Basho Technologies. Someday when space travel is something that we're all actually enjoying, which will be many years from now, you may see a satellite dish floating around space, and it would be the first ever direct TV satellite. And if you get a really close look at it, you'll notice a little fingerprint on it. That's Earl's fingerprint on the first ever direct TV satellite that's floating around space right now. In addition to that fingerprint, he was one of the executive members of Akamai, which runs, oh, by the way, 20% of the internet's traffic around the world. Earl is now involved with Basho Technologies, which is using an incredible database emerging technology called the REAC. And he's just doing incredible things. Just came back from the West Coast, where he's helping to raise capital to build his business. And let's start with Earl, and let's work our way over to Robert. Why are you an entrepreneur?
Why? I don't know. It just happens. I mean, you go, you get a job, you sit in a cube, you get fired, you have to do something. And so you just start doing something. And I think from an entrepreneurial standpoint, to have the greatest success, it's pretty important to do the thing you have the most knowledge about and the most experience with. you can go do something else, but the likelihood that other people are going to do it a lot better than you is high. So if you are going to go into entrepreneurial endeavors, do what you're really good at, so you have an advantage going in. But it was the career of last resort. It's the only place that would have me.
Brett.
Yeah, I have to agree with Earl. I don't think you have a choice. It's because you are. You don't fit anywhere else. Your mind kind of works in a way that doesn't fit in a cube. You're good at one thing, and the one thing I'm very good at is failing. I'm a tremendous failure. And I can fail, and I can pick myself back up, and I can fail again, and I can fail a third time and a fourth time. And ultimately, because I can fail and I won't quit, I will ultimately succeed. And I think every entrepreneur has that seed in them, because without it, they would quit. They wouldn't be able to climb the mountain, fall off it, climb it, and fall off it day in and day out. So I agree with Earl. You have to be good at one thing, and I think the most important thing to be good at is the ability to allow yourself to fail, because you will.
Robert.
Yeah, I would certainly echo their comments. I would add that I'm probably unemployable and impatient, and as a result, having worked for a large company, I like to get things done, and found large organizations made that difficult. So if you're the type of person that likes to plant the fruits of your labor, watch the trees grow, and then pick the fruit, then I think entrepreneurship tends to make a lot of sense.
Robert, what does it feel like to be in a situation where, I mean, you're building a company, and you've created jobs, and you have a great team, and you've brought in investors and brought in and re-engaged some executives in the area. Now you're looking at some new opportunities in building companies. How does that feel like? And all your a lot of your customers aren't here, but the company is. What does it feel like to have the vision and to be able to lead that and see where the fruit of those labors, what they've created?
Well, I don't look at it from a high level of I'm an entrepreneur. I've identified an opportunity whereby a value proposition is real, and I focus on delivering that value proposition to the customer. And I think you have to take a grassroots approach to your business, and make sure that you're delivering the value proposition, that you're taking care of the customer, and you have something to offer. The byproduct of running a business fundamentally, I think, is, hopefully financial success, but as well as job creation, and being able to give back to the community, and once you can afford to do so in certain ways. So I think it's just a fundamental approach to running a business and bringing that value proposition to market.
And you kind of have a fundamental mantra that you look at, don't you? Like it's sort of a three-step.
I do. So for me, I would prioritize my business by saying that I take care of my employees first, my customers second, and my profits third. And I think if I view myself as the general of the Army, and my job is to make sure I supply the front lines the tools and resources they need to fight the battle. If I keep my employees happy, that's going to convey on to the customer. If I keep the customers happy, that's going to convey on to the profits.
Brett, when you sort of step back and think, I mean, 4 employees 13 years ago, and where you are today with 180, and for everyone who's read Brett's bio, all the other companies that are within your portfolio now, did you see that in the beginning? I mean, did you see that you were going to be here today, and what that feels like to have come that far and built so much?
Yeah, I don't think you see it. I think looking at entrepreneurs, we spend too much time looking at their success. And it's almost the tip of the iceberg. If you envision an iceberg, you look at the top of it, but the reality is everything that lies beneath it. And I don't think entrepreneurs look at the success. They look at the obstacles that are in front of them every day. And they look at, how do I get to tomorrow? How do I get to the day after that? And our vision is rather insular, because we need it to be insular to survive. For the most part, most of the forces are working against an entrepreneur. You're not running with the water, you're usually running against it in some fashion. So I never saw 200 as the success of the company. If you ask me now, I think 200's tiny. I'm sitting in the shadow of a building that has 5,000 employees. What have I done? But I think that's the mentality of an entrepreneur, because where you are is never where you want to be. You always want to be where you're going. And that's kind of the drive that keeps you going. So 200, 2,000, it's how you get through today and make tomorrow just a little bit better.
Earl, you're sort of in a unique spot now because you've been through a number of high-growth startups, very large, and now here you are building a new company almost from the bottom up. Talk a little bit about why you decided to get involved in another startup and how that process is going so far.
Well, what caused me to get involved, I was trying to be helpful to a fellow that was in my organization, and he had an idea in my organization at Akamai Technologies. And he called me, and I was down here living, and he wanted some help, so I got involved, and then I put some money in, and then once, you know, things just happened, so he wasn't scaling, so we had to, you know, because we had money in it now, so we had to move him out, and so he's out. So that I kind of just by happenstance got involved, and now he's mad at me. But sometimes you have to make that decision. So it just kind of happened. It wasn't a plan. How's it going? The technology is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. A completely distributed masterless data store is almost inconceivable. But it's there and it works. So the technology's great. We're getting customers, but the capital markets are completely locked up. And Frank, I know there's bankers here. I think across a lot of sectors that provides the capital to fuel growth, I think that side of the world is not participating, and they took our tax dollars for their TARP funds, and now we're sitting here holding the bag, not getting any money from the capital markets. So it's very difficult, and you know, who knows? I could be in the midst of a massive failure. But I'll tell you what, once you take, and this is something for any entrepreneur to really think about, once you cross the chasm and take someone else's money, it's a different game. Don't take money from your friends, because be prepared to disappoint, and you really need to take responsibility for that. Once you take someone's money for something you do, your responsibility goes like that immediately, and I could lose people's money and my own. I got, you know, half of the investment in the company is me, but I'm less concerned about mine than the people who trusted me and put their money in, and that's an extraordinarily high responsibility. And at this instant, it's not going terribly well, and I know some of my investors are in the room, and you know, I'm just going to be honest with them, but I was in California got here 1 in the morning. I'm going out tomorrow, and we are going to make it happen. This is a huge company, and somebody's going to listen.